So Todd, today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a subject that I think, the interesting part about this is I think a lot of people feel that some of the things we're going to talk about are kind of intuitive or kind of like in the zeitgeist almost of just like what sales leadership is. And, we put together, kind of a piece of content with you all around, again, how to think about modern sales management, how to think about the use of coaching and data and those two things together. And so I want to just, maybe start with, kind of a question for you around, trends and what are some things that you're excited about when you think about modern sales leadership and what you're seeing from best-in-class leaders today?
I think the thing I'm most excited about is the fundamental trend of we're moving to much more of a science of sales, where traditionally it's been a lot of intuitive, the art of sales from a B2B standpoint historically, certainly going way back to when I started. But this trend of having analytics that drive a much more insightful assessment of deals and funnel that translates to being predictive is just a dramatic change for how sales managers and CROs are going to operate the business.
Yeah, I love that. And I think we're just getting comfortable with some of this, right? Like, the idea was so much of this before was ran based on a feel that I had, or just looking at some basic metrics around like forecast and close rates and things like that, timelines. And I think a lot of leaders are just kind of starting to get comfortable with that. And maybe I can trust the data, maybe this is going to teach me something new and that not just my gut is telling me.
I think that's true, but I also think that now we're getting a different level of data.
Yeah, exactly.
The amount of data that's now available to assess a deal or assess a funnel or assess a sales process today versus what it was 5 years ago, never mind 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Is fundamentally different. We're coming from a world where the role of ops was to do these massive exports of Salesforce, putting them into these big, spreadsheets with
right.
macro algorithms to be able to glean the insights, to be able to drive some metrics to predict the future, right? I mean, sales has been operating under that premise for a long time. But we've been missing some really key components of the data and the volume of the data. The exporting and asking ops to be able to do analytics it's not going to scale. There's just too much data. You need systems to be able to sort through and find the insights and present those insights to the points of the business, the points of the hierarchy where it's needed to drive outcomes. And so the old way isn't going to work because of volume, and because now we've got such different components of data that weren't possible 3-4 years ago, that just give us a different level of analytics and insights that I think is just really exciting.
I love that. Yeah, and we're going to dive in, today. So just I got excited there and I jumped ahead of the agenda. And what we're going to do here is we're really going to talk through, we put out a piece which is kind of 12 sales process management best practices for sales managers. And I think whether you're an aspiring sales manager or somebody who's been in the thick of it, I think everything we're going to cover today is going to be spot on. So we're going to talk really about, how to build dynamic relationships between management and the team, how to then coach with the data, which I think is that's another big one that I think we'll spend a lot of time on, is just like, I got the data, how do I coach to it, and then how to use it to drive to better results and then exceed targets, right? So build, coach, drive, exceed. So I want all of you to kind of think about that, think about those key, kind of key details here as we go through this. So again, so you're talking about as we get into kind of build, right? And, building this skill, building this type of culture. And you think about, what goes into, like, what would you say in order to build a data-driven or insights-driven culture? What do you think some of the team dynamics are, some of the skills, and again, I'll give my hot take on it too, that people need to do today? And it could be things that might be different, but what do you think kind of are some of the core when you think about building that team dynamic, building that trust, or building kind of a modern sales team? What are some of those kind of building or foundational elements?
So it's a great question, and I think it's probably the most critical success factor because I can give you tools and analytics, but if you don't have
Right.
the management system and the culture to leverage it, it'll fall on deaf ears.
Yep.
And what I've learned over the years is that the key to a good culture is to have an execution slash commit oriented culture. And what I mean by commit is that if you can drive ownership to the outcome down to the rep level, um, then you as a CRO or as a sales leader are going to be that much more successful. I'm always amazed. I have a lot of customers, a lot of prospects that like don't hold reps accountable or aren't asking reps even to forecast, which that may work as a small business, but it's not going to scale long term. Like you've got to have this commit orientation where people are accountable for what they're committing to close, the outcome this month, this quarter. And if you can establish that, then your success as a first line manager, as a CRO, will go up exponentially. Now, how do you do that? It's about having a management system that what do you review weekly? What do you review monthly? What do you review quarterly? And you've got to establish that cadence of your management system. And that cadence, in my experience, will be the number one driver of culture of the organization. What do you review? Do you review it consistently? It's not about reviewing to surprise. It's about a predictable level of review at the consistent cadence. That's how you change behavior and get everybody doing the same thing. Because if you get everybody knowing you're going to look at it the same way every week, every month, every quarter, and you have to be religious about doing it. If your weekly is Monday, then you do it every Monday. You don't take a Monday
That's
off.
right.
If you have a holiday Monday, it moves to Tuesday. And so having that cadence creates the rhythm. And the moment you take your eye off the ball, the moment you become undisciplined, everything kind of starts to move different segments of the business. You've got to stay religious about that cadence. That's how you drive, I think, the fundamental aspects of an execution culture in a sales team.
This is great. I mean, and I think like hopefully for everybody listening right now, I also would maybe think a little bit about even if you're not the top, right? If you are I think of this as like every team can do this too. Every team should have their own norms, their own kind of version of a mission. Every sales manager, I think sometimes sales managers kind of forget this, and I don't know how you kind of see this as well, is they forget that each manager is a little different. I've got the things that I look for that I think make people successful, and I've got my own culture and way that I lead people. And I think so often what ends up happening is because we don't set those norms for ourselves. We don't set those norms for us as our own team, right? Let alone for the organization. So I think I really love this idea because it's very actionable. The quick follow-up question before we kind of dive into some of the coaching. How have you seen best-in-class companies, Todd, use this? So you have this sequence, right? And again, it's that rhythm. It's the rhythm. It's just like working out or doing pull-ups. If you lose the callus, pull-ups become harder again. And there's so many things in life that kind of come down to this. I think where I see some sales managers struggle is, I don't say they want to be everyone's friend, but like it's like how do you make the feel of the meeting not punitive, not oh shit, big brother's coming, and I think that's what I see a lot of new or even experienced frontline managers. So maybe just some quick tips you could say. So when you're setting that cadence, that sequence, what do you think you can do to make it feel not big brother or punitive?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think I'll give you 2 or 3 tips on that. Number one is I think facts are your best friend of it not being personal and it not being punitive. Like facts are facts, and if you can get your weekly process, your dashboards, the data you review, they're facts. And facts will tell you who's executing, who's not. It's not about being personal. It's like the facts are the facts. And so get the judgmental aspects out of it by just dealing with facts and forcing everybody to come to the table with the facts that represent their business. Like get the BS out of the system. And there's a lot of systems now that can help you do that. So that's number one. Number two, I always, if there's some critical things that I'm looking for as a first line manager, as a CRO, then I would typically stack rank performance against those things. But the stack rank is not a performance evaluation process, it's a benchmarking process. And so to your point of not being punitive, I always presented a benchmarking. So let's say it's linearity, of bookings within a month or quarter, or forecast accuracy, or funnel build, whatever the key things are that you're trying to drive, is having a consistent, transparent stack rank is a vehicle for everybody to benchmark themselves against their peers. Again, it goes back to facts. Facts are facts. If pipeline build is the biggest one, who's building the most and where do I stand? And I always kind of present it as a benchmarking or a stack rank is an opportunity for you to learn who should I go talk to learn to improve myself. And then the third would be those stack ranks in any assessments, you're always focused on the top, right? You praise in public, you criticize and coach in private. And so when I put a stack rank, I'm always focused on the top three. I don't never need to mention the bottom. The people at the bottom know. It's not about calling them out.
They know.
Like I would tell them, listen, if you're at the bottom, great, you got the most opportunity to succeed. Let's go figure out what you got to do, right? Or most opportunity to improve. And then I would offline then go work with them to coach them, to help them understand what is Johnny and Sally doing at the top that you can learn from, and how do I help you move up the stack rank? So it's always praise in public, never criticize in public. You criticize or you coach to those poor performers in private.
I love that. I think it's all tactical, and I think that my kind of takeaway, I took a few notes here too. I like some of the ways that you phrase things, is just as a leader, when you set that rhythm, it's about facts. You're focused on the top group. You're focused on the metrics that matter. Another thing you kind of just said it very briefly, but I want to make sure everyone picked up on it. You also said that they bring the information to the table. And I think that's an important thing to call out, is that how I've seen these meetings go more and more effective. And really, when you've got that rhythm, is when people show up with the right stuff every time.
That's right.
And they're they know what's going to happen. And the other thing, the last thing that I'll add before we kind of move on, is that help your teams to understand the why. Meaning, Todd, what I see is that a lot of failure, I think, of sales initiatives, obviously as a consulting firm, we see this a lot. And I can tell you one of the single points of failure that is so common with companies is nobody tells the reps anything. And if the reps don't understand, hey, Jake, why? You don't explain. You don't say hey, why are we looking at, it might be second nature to you. You were maybe a top performer, or maybe you're a top manager or director, and now you're VP. It may have been obvious to you about why, there's the why, but I've just found that as you build this consistency, you bring these metrics, you're making them pull it. And it's just like your kids. I have a 6-year-old, and so I'm really trying to force myself to never say just because, right? Because that doesn't work. And it's the same way as a manager. If you just say because I said so, and sometimes as a parent it can be tough not to shortcut to that. But it's the same thing for your team, in that if you can tell them the why, help them to understand the what's in it for them on the why. I've just seen it work. I've seen it work. And Todd, another technique, I'm just curious if you've seen this or done this, is, I've also been successful, when I'm going back to when I was a frontline leader, I kind of let the team pick the metric, like some of the key metrics that we're going to look at. And I don't think there was a single time where they didn't shoot above what the actual number was. And so I think it's like the more inclusive you are of the team in the process, I've just seen that be just so much more successful than kind of it feeling like authoritarian.
Jake, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I call it the what, why, and how. And you have to help people understand what we're doing and why. And to the extent that you're creating a team, the team is coming up with the dashboards, that tends to become the why. If they understand what we're trying to accomplish and why, funnel build. Then,
that's it.
And the leading metrics that will help you get to the alignment of what we're trying to accomplish is so much more powerful, right? You have to get them intellectually aligned as to why this is important. And the other thing I will add is that once you get alignment, they have to have confidence in what the data where the data is coming from to report on it. Because what you never want is people rationalizing where they sit in the stack rank because they don't believe in where the data is coming from.
That's right.
So I'll tell you a quick story. I had a long time ago, I had a key metric that I was trying to drive with my team. I launched it at the sales kickoff. We kept pounding on it all year. And I got the team together like early Q4 because we were making no progress. And one brave soul stood up and said, well, where's that data coming from? It was a really interesting like aha moment for me.
Wow.
Right. And so I now look for that level of discussion. And when you do a stack rank, people are gonna question. They have to believe in the integrity of the data. If they don't ask you, then that is a telltale sign that they really haven't bought in, and you're not going to get the change in behavior.
That's it. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and again, it's just interesting. I think sometimes, you know, transparency is almost always the answer. You know, it's like the more open you are, the more you talk through all the different variables and really have that empathy to put yourself in their shoes. This stuff becomes not easy. Change is not easy, but it definitely becomes easier. And you know, we've got a question here from anonymous attendee. One is, you know, what are the best? And again, feel free, everyone. I've got to tell you, we love questions as we're going through this. We're going to jump into some coaching, you know, next. But what are the best tools, best places to get this data to help manage and coach? And I'll say it for you, Todd. So I'll cover part of it, which is, you know, we've been using InsightSquared and, you know, been implementing it for almost, 5 years, right? And what it's capable of now is just like, it's complete night and day. But what you want to look for are tools, you know, like InsightSquared that can help you to see both what's happening in the day-to-day, right? And really, again, how am I performing compared to my peers? What are my account plans and things like, you know, like on my day-to-day, but can also help you as a manager or rep self-assess. And that's when you're looking at trend data, which is like average age and sales stage. That there's two data points of InsightSquared that I've loved for forever, and it's because and it's made me say this statement, which is the term sales cycle is complete BS, because the true number is average age in each step. And every company has a bottleneck. Every team, based on who their manager is, has a bottleneck, and every rep, and it's all different. And so when you sit there and you say, our average age is 49, you know, Jake, yours is 60. I'm like, what do I do about it? Oh, crap, it's my trial process. And then the next is conversion percentage by stage. Oh, stage 3, that's where I lose my deals. And I think it's that yin and yang. You need both. You need to be able to look, how am I doing now? And then I can spend 5 or 10% of my time every week looking at those trends. And that's where I think a tool like InsightSquared is so dangerous, is that it really allows a manager and a rep to do both those things. So
yeah, you listen, you said it well. I appreciate it. And we didn't preload that.
We did not. No, this is not a door. Like I said, we've been implementing it for literally 5+ years. So I needed no prodding.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I'm most excited about is there's been a lot of dashboarding technology. InsightSquared's been in it for 10 years. But what's fundamentally changed now is you have to have the ability to have interactive dashboarding that allows you to drill down to understand the why. Why does this rep convert at a higher rate, faster sales cycle than this rep, or this team versus that team? Like, you got to get to the why. And so having dashboarding capability that allows you to filter the data by your hierarchy down to a rep level and drill down to get to the real reasons that you can then replicate, or the friction points to go put the strategies in place to coach. That's the fundamental difference that I'm so excited about where technology is today.
And it's a good segue, because we're gonna talk about coaching. And I think one of the things that you talked about, so there you go, InsightSquared again, but the key is that ability to drill in, you know, and to really see what's happening today, the future, and be able to understand on your own quickly, without having to be like, you know, not having to be a expert at Excel to extract the data and do some type of correlation, you know, like just surfacing it for you. So where I was going with that is that, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of coaching. So you want to build this, and we've got another question here. I'm going to get to that here in a few minutes. You know, when you think about coaching, one of the things you said, and I think what's really important today, is that more important than ever is what this data allows you to do that you could really only do anecdotally before is coach to the individual, and coach to specific non-gut, non, my intuition based, why things are happening. And I feel like it's that ability to coach to the individual. And really, when you think about the use of data, we talk about coaching for top performers, and we talk about this. How do you see top performing leaders and top performing teams use the data in coaching? How are they cultivating that ability to, not just nurture dependency, right, but to help them do it. But what are these best in class teams doing? How are they using data to coach? And again, we talked about maybe some of the trends, so feel free to kind of double down on some of those tactics as well.
Yeah, I think there's two aspects that have made that are holding us back from being able to effectively coach. Number one is we're spending so much time in our one-on-ones inspecting and interrogating the funnel, all driven by the need to deliver an accurate forecast. And the interrogation and inspection, I call that the least intellectually stimulating aspect of a manager's job. Like, reps don't like it, managers don't like it, but you have to do it. And the reason you have to is because we're struggling so much with the data, and you got to look that rep in the eye and understand, is this a good deal, bad deal? Am I going to incorporate it in my forecast or not? Because that's a term of employment. And so that's a big piece. The second piece is it's always been really difficult to figure out and identify with data, what are the best reps actually doing? Like, everybody knows who their best reps are, but do you actually know what they're doing in the sales process? A lot of it's intuitive to them. And we typically put the least amount of pressure on your best reps to get that data because they're the most administratively adverse, and you want to give them as much latitude because they keep delivering. But in fact, you really want to know what they're doing the most.
Right.
Because what should be moving the bell curve of performance up and to the right, or onboarding people, like, replicate what they're doing. And many times I've had large teams where I would send a consultant out and say, go interview these 25 people and tell me what they're doing, because we've got to go replicate that in the other 200. And I would come back with not much, because they'd go interview them and the reps were like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know what I do. I just do it.
Right. All the time, man. All the time.
And so getting data now to understand what does good look like. So when you win, why do you win? When you convert to those critical inflection points, why, versus when you don't. And if you have that baseline, now you can get into one-on-one, because you're no longer doing inspection and interrogation. Now you're helping that rep, coaching on deals or coaching on overall conversions at critical stages where they might be struggling. It's so much more effective now.
I think that there's just so much in here about, and the other thing that, you and we talked about, yesterday a little bit, was just empowerment, and how do you think about empowering your team and individuals most effectively? Because, and getting them to see that why. Is it about that kind of positive reinforcement? And maybe we used to call it, I remember at Career Builder, we used to call it, we would do these account strategy one-on-ones, and we call it diamonds, where we would kind of go into their book of business and we'd kind of look at 2 or 3 prospects with them and kind of, hey, I saw this piece of news on this one, or, what is it? But how are you seeing leaders work with reps to get the reps to start to kind of get that accountability working on their own?
Well, with the new systems that deliver insights directly to the rep, it's no longer up to the manager. Well, I believe philosophically, you need systems that take all the data, provide a set of insights to enable them to be self-sufficient in running their territory. And so if you think about presenting assessments of the health of a deal based upon engagement level through the process, and giving the insights to the rep that, well, maybe this deal isn't as strong as you think it is relative to what great looks like in our business. And so if you can deliver those insights and do the interrogation and inspection that I as a manager would have done historically, but give it to the rep so that they can intellectualize and take ownership for it, change behavior, change my forecast, change my engagement strategy. Like if you could get reps to think better, leveraging benchmarking of every specific deal or their overall process, take ownership for their own self-improvement. Again, it's grounded in data, right? It's facts. Like you may think you're really good at moving from qualification to discovery. Well, actually, you're in the middle of the pack. Oh, didn't know that. Let me think about it now. And so giving them the data and the facts to be accountable, and you want those reps. Your best reps are always going to be intellectually oriented on self-improvement. Actually, the best reps love the benchmarking the most because they're always about continuous improvement.
That's right.
And so giving them data to take ownership for deals and their overall performance, that's then supplemented with the manager's insights on the areas where they have friction or the deal specifics where a deal might have gone cold. Because I can remove all the noise now of the interrogation inspection, coaching kind of enters a much, much better place than where we've been.
Yeah, and what do you think the manager's role is in the prep? Like I think sometimes in these meetings, and we'll kind of move on from coaching here in a sec, kind of it's a, because I've seen this go both ways, right? You get in and the kind of the coaching really becomes manager shows up, rep brings the insights, they spend half their time just catching up on what the data already said, right? And then they really don't get into it, until later. But what's our manager's role in prep? And again, when you think about this kind of we kind of believe this is called coactive coaching, which is that you're kind of two, the coachee and a coach, and they're working together collaboratively. What do you think? What should managers be prepping? Should they be prepping? How should they be prepping for these meetings as well too, versus showing up?
I think you have to prep. You have to know. You have to go into any one of those one-on-ones with an agenda, with a perspective of where do I need this rep to improve. And you got to focus on one or two key things. It's not five or six. Like what are
everyone listen to that. Everyone hear that real quick. My friends, I know you want to tell people everything they need to focus on. Human beings, we cannot do that. One or two, I promise. And you pick the one, let them have a say in what those one or two are, and you will see, dramatic improvement.
And I love sporting analogies, right? And I'm a big Belichick fan. Not that I know him from back from my New York Giant days. I'm not a Patriots fan. Not that I need to apologize for that.
But, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I've been in Boston. You gotta.
The key is like every week you're trying to get a bit better. Every week a little bit better. Every month a little bit better. And so, what is it this week, this month in my one-on-one that I'm going to focus on? And when you get that rhythm of showing the improvement on that one or two things, then you go on to the next thing. There's always opportunities to improve. There's always a weak link, systematically across the team as well as individually. But one or two things. That's what you focus on getting better every week, every month.
Yeah. And again, you're building, you're using the data, you're saying, hey, last time, again, I did the prep, I'm taking notes, I've got it in, we go in, we sit down, we look at this, again, consistency, we're looking at this thing, and now we're doing that, and again, I could talk about coaching for a long time. I've got some very specific views on the difference between coaching and teaching and mentoring. And so when we think about kind of the next phase here, which is, kind of driving to better results. And, when we talked about this, I've jotted down a few questions. How are best in class teams and leaders doing this to make tactical decisions? So I'm actually going to start bottoms up. We're going to go tactical, then we'll go strategic. So just get into the weeds a little bit. What are some of the tactical decisions that you see teams making that are moving the needle the most?
So by tactical, I'm assuming you're meaning within the month, within the quarter.
That's right. Yeah. Within the month, within the quarter, and making sure that it's something where I can take a look and I can take action, and I can see this thing happen. We've talked, and then we'll get kind of strategic. We'll talk about kind of longer term skill development. We touched on a little bit, but yeah, again, it's let's think in the month, in the quarter, the week, and the things that I can do and to really move the needle.
I think the biggest thing is to leverage the systems to do the interrogation and inspection and identify where you as a manager should and can spend time to move the needle. And what do I mean by that? We spend too much time validating high confidence deals and too much time sorting through low confidence deals that shouldn't be in the funnel. That's what's consuming so much time. So have the system get that noise out of the system. Like, you should be able to validate a high confidence deal with machine learning and systems 10, 15 seconds. Be able to hear the rep's input, see what the engagement level is, benchmarking against that deal relative to what great looks like. You should be able to validate that quickly and get out of the way. Today, we spend 5 minutes hearing about it, believing it. Is it moving at the right stage? Am I engaged with the right person? Like, it's a conversation that's consuming time, that's adding zero value to the rep, zero improvement in the outcome. Likewise, you don't want to spend any time talking about deals that have such a low confidence, such a low engagement, right? Like, get them out of the system. We drive reps to do that because we've been living in this, you got to have enough funnel coverage to make the number. And so what do? We go into a review, we sort high to low, and some of that stuff is in there to make the funnel coverage, when in reality, it's noise in the system. So get the noise out of the system and leverage the system to identify where is I as a manager am going to have the best impact. Those deals that are 50, 60, 70% confident, like, let's focus on those. Let's not focus on the 90 plus. Let's not focus on things below 30, 40%, whatever your business is. If you get that noise out of the system and know which deals to really go engage on in that rep, to give them your insights, potentially engage, give them some tactical strategy insights, that's how you move the needle.
I love that. Yeah, and it's kind of, and it's also helping them to understand how you can help them too. It's like, this is, bring this to, like, and what I've seen consistently whenever I'm doing these meetings, we did, called the account strategy meetings as well, which are kind of independent from pipeline, is when you focus on that 50, 60, 70, what starts to happen, and if you set that consistency in that rhythm, and the reps come prepared and you come prepared because they've sent you an email or something a day ahead, those meetings start to get shorter and shorter and shorter, because the reps are like, I already know what Jake's going to say. He's going to say, how do they make money? Who are the main stakeholders? Like, he's going to go through, and you're kind of training them by using the data and focusing on that subset. You're going to train them how to do proper account strategy. You're going to train them on how to not, and that's where I think the difference between, kind of coaching, I think a lot of managers get stuck tactically coaching to tips and tricks versus skill development. And that's kind of the next question here around strategy. Again, how are managers, and again, we've kind of talked about a few of these ways, like using data to drive strategy for their team, and we can talk about the individual level too, because again, it's so funny that funnel coverage data, this is another kind of spoiler for a lot of you. Guess what? Every rep needs different funnel coverage. It's not a universal 3x coverage. Guess what? Every rep's different. And I think that just when you said funnel coverage, it just made me remember that stat too. So what do you think strategically, because and then there's a question in there too, maybe you can kind of tie these together around, getting buy-in and creating like this culture or, around it. But how do you think about like the strategy of using the data or helping the reps to make more, strategic decisions, not just the tactical ones?
Well, I think it starts with hiring the people that are execution oriented, are analytical and fact-based. I've gone into multiple jobs, and it's been as much a sales cultural change about dealing with facts, dealing with the data, and having fact-based discussions. And some people are comfortable with that, right? And there are some people that like to, BS, and system you can't, right? And so there are some people that can make those adjustments and some that can't. I find that all execution oriented people like dealing in facts. And so you can learn really quickly who's a fit based upon, do they have lots of excuses, or are we able to have a fact-based discussion? And so for me, when I'm making cultural evolutionary changes, I'm looking for my management team and my reps, like who deals in facts, so that we can get to what the situation is, whether it's a deal or a sales process, and get to how do we improve. And like spending a lot of time on all the excuses is like a waste of time. And so, you may have some people on your team that don't, that are more of the art of sales, that don't want to be data oriented, continuous improvement oriented. You may get to, now they may be a really good rep. They may be worth keeping. If you can get their data and they continue to execute, that's fine. But they're still going to need to be accountable for what each of the deals and their assessment of the deals. But if they execute, like, that's fine. Just collect their data, but let's go focus your time on coaching based upon having their data, what great looks like. But culturally, it's about having people that are really comfortable being execution-oriented, commit-oriented, and comfortable dealing with data as a driving force of continuous improvement. That's when I go into a new job, like, that's the number one thing I'm focused on in the first 90 days. Do I have a management team that's confident and comfortable with dealing with data and being execution oriented?
That is so great. I mean, yeah, and there's so much. I mean, again, we could get into hiring and all the things that go in there, but that's it. And I found it. I remember the first time I took over a team, Todd. Gosh, 15 plus years ago now. And you got to, I think it's for all my frontline managers out there, or even VPs, as you're thinking about this and you want to build this type of culture, it takes time. I don't know what I had the foresight to do, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to spend the next 9 months to get my team. Like, I'm going to spend the next 9 months to build that. And someone, they'd ask that question. They'd said, well, what if, management is, or what if, like, the higher ups? And it's like, you as a leader can do it yourself. You don't need, again, this is about operational excellence. This is about you running a team that's a high performing, highly effective and efficient team. And I think every team can run, not, we all have to manage up and report numbers up, but you can have your rhythm, your discipline, etc., based on who you are, your team. But also, this takes time. And so I think a lot of, when you think strategically about your team, a lot of you are hopefully going to be in leadership for a little bit, right? You're going to be in that frontline leadership role for a few years. So take that mid to long-term mindset, not just, what am I doing for this month? Pipeline. And
I think the other thing, Jake, that's important for people to realize is this is not management by the numbers. That's not what fact-based, data-centric discussions are. It's just getting the facts on the table so that you can have a much more intellectual discussion one-to-one. So in reality, what happens is that once everybody deals with the facts, the reality the way it is, not the way they want it to be, then I'm now in a much better discussion of coaching that rep up to help them improve. And so once they realize they don't need to BS, let's deal with the facts. And
right.
I actually build stronger relationships with them, because now it's not about, hey, give me the data so I can forecast. It's give me the data so I know where you are, you know where you are, you acknowledge. Now let's talk about how we help you execute better. And so actually the connection with the individual and with the team overall, like, I as a manager now am spending so much more time helping them individually and collectively execute. And that's how you build a great team.
Yeah, and we've talked about some of these points. And maybe we get kind of tactical here before we kind of talk about, or as we kind of move into, like, exceeding targets.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like winning competitive deals, right? And are there data points or ways that you've seen people be successful and top reps in kind of using data to win competitive deals, or to win more strategic deals? How are top reps thinking about those situations? Let's call it kind of competitive and strategic deals.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the answer to that question is changing now with the level of data and analytics that I have, right? So what you really want to be able to identify is when a competitor gets involved at different stages, what happens to win rate holistically? And do you know what your win rate is when competition gets engaged at this stage versus that stage?
Yeah.
And so knowing what's competitors impact win rate holistically gives you an ability now to drive field enablement or individual coaching in a different way, right? So the key is that at the root of all this is being able to get the data. What do we mean by the data, right? Because we've been dependent upon what the rep puts into Salesforce. when does who's the competitor and when do they get involved? Like, these are things that reps hate putting into Salesforce. They're just time consuming. There's nothing in it for them. And so you got to get the rep out of the data entry business. And the data you need to be able to assess your sales process or an overall deal is customer engagement. How's the customer engaging? Like, I now view every sales process is a series of meeting conversions. Do you know when you win? Do you know what the critical inflection points are where you've moved from qualification discovery to now the customer's investing in you to build consensus to get the right decision maker there when a decision's made? So I think in terms of everything in terms of meeting conversions. And so knowing that a competitor gets engaged at certain points, does that impact conversion rates to get to that point when you really win? Like, you now have systems to be able to give you that data. We can identify when competitors are mentioned in meetings or in emails without the rep having to put in any data. And so having the insights now is now possible because with automatic activity capture, you can capture all of those digital engagements. And you can tell when a customer stops engaging with your team without having to rely on an interrogation. Some cases, the rep doesn't know the customer's disengaged. But if you know that meeting 5 is typically 90% of the time is scheduled coming out of meeting 4, and this one hasn't, and it's now 2 weeks later, like, red flag. And that rep may be rationalizing to you, yeah, no, it was a great meeting. Yep, we're still on good track. Well, no, the system's kind of calling BS. Actually, maybe not. Let's talk about it, right? So having that data now, and the analytics to be able to provide it to a rep on a deal or holistically on a sales process, that's what's fundamentally changing, and why I'm so excited about the state of technology, because I've spent a career doing interrogations and inspections, and it's as I said before, it's the most least stimulating aspect of your job. Like, so let's stop doing it.
Yeah, let's unleash our brains, right? Let's talk strategy. Let's talk like moving things forward. Let's not talk about, why did this happen or how did we get? Let's just use the data and say, look. And again, there's a couple ways that you phrase things, Todd, that I really liked, and it's around like, hey, this is the company best practices. This is what we know historically other top performers are doing. Again, kind of removing that, that part of the conversation and from the interrogation too. But I think it's just so critical. And then when you think about how all this plays together around competitive deals, et cetera, and that the insights that you just mentioned too, it's like you kind of look at Johnny doesn't have meeting 5 scheduled or meeting 4, and then you look at average age and stage and you see Johnny, look, hey, this is why, like, you're taking that tactical data, you're taking the trend data on that rep's performance, and you're saying, hey, so now going forward, man, let's just focus on one thing. Get meeting 5. Like, look, here's what it is. This is why it's going long, and you can marry all that data together, and I don't have to look for it. It's like, I'm surfacing it in a very simple to understand way. So let's talk now about like kind of above and beyond. So we've talked about kind of some of the tactical ways and strategic ways people are doing it. What are some, and I've kind of beat this drum about rep level. So as we think about, a team exceeding target, what are the things that you think are really important to look at the team level? I've got a few kind of insights, but I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts.
Team level in the sense of exceeding goal?
Just team level, what's the data that you're really, if I'm a frontline manager, or even if I'm a director in a territory, what's the data that, we've talked a lot about that individual data, which I still believe is, the good stuff. But is there certain data points you like to look at the team level, that you feel is a really nice, helpful thing to look at that level?
You hit upon it before. So I, as a first line manager, I want to understand where are the friction points in our sales process or in our execution, better way to put it. And so what I mean by that is, this may sound a bit controversial, but I don't think in terms of funnel stage or deal stage when I look at an opportunity anymore. I look at it in terms of where am I in the number of meetings. And let me tell you why. Reps are really bad at keeping a few things clean in Salesforce. Number one, they're really bad about past due. Like this deal was supposed to close last week and they didn't update it. I mean, there's always past due items in the funnel. And the second thing they're really bad at is sales stage, keeping things at the proper sales stage, because there's nothing in it for them. Who cares? Like it's just another administrative task. And I feel like I've spent a career trying to get reps to put it in the proper stage, and I could never move the needle, and I've given up. But what I've fundamentally now understood is it's actually not that relevant. Now, sales stages aren't going away. They're really good for onboarding. They're really good for development and training and tools at different stages and what the criteria is, what great looks like. But that's it. Now I know where I win between 8 to 10 meetings. And so I can look at a deal really quick to know where am I in the meeting sequence? When was the last meeting? When's the next meeting? What's the engagement in between meetings? So it's about meeting conversion versus sales stage conversion now. And so if you know where your inflection points are, like we are a struggling team in converting from discovery to eval. Let's drill in. When we convert, why? When we don't convert, why? And collectively as a team, you now start to focus on if that is meeting 4, then we're gonna inspect everything that goes into meeting 4 religiously. Remember, it goes back to the why we're doing it. We're doing it because that's the weak link, that's the friction point. And so we're gonna collectively learn as a team. Let's review all the deals we had last week that had meeting 4 that didn't get the 5th meeting scheduled. Let's review the ones that did get the 5th meeting. What did you do, Johnny, Sally? What did you do, Sam? Like focus on the positives, and then you drive a collective mindset. Meeting 4, really important, really important. And that's how you drive conversion rate inputs, because the more you can get into meeting 8, 9, getting past 4, the better the outcome you're going to have.
I love this. This is good. I might do a LinkedIn post on this. I'll give you credit for it, but it's so true. You know, it's again, it goes back to just, you know, sales is a process. It is a repeatable process. Are there variables? Yes. But there are trends that show you there's a right and a wrong way to move a customer through the funnel for them to be successful, or, you know, or for them to both, you know, buy from you and, you know, ultimately be successful from a user standpoint. And this idea, gosh, it's just so simple, right? It's just like, here's the meetings. Like, dude, all we got to do is get them to meeting 7, you know, like, and here's what needs to happen at each step. And you can see it in the data. The other thing I wanted to add here is that another thing I think is really important around the team level is, as a manager, you can find out your blind spots. And what I mean by that is, from me, and I've looked at clients and looking in their InsightSquared, when I go from manager to manager, I also see different patterns within their teams. And because guess what? Jake is amazing at converting the proof of concept process. Oh, what's he, you know, if I'm a director, VP, I'm like, why is Jake's team crushing that? These other teams, boom. And if I'm a manager and I'm self-assessing too, I'm like, gosh, why does my team suck at like meeting 3 to meeting 4? And so I would say that another big reason, if you want to exceed targets as a manager, is to find your own blind spots, to find where your own sales knowledge may have been deficient. And so your team, I've just seen this, it's like, you'll see these teams follow these trends of leaders. So anyway,
it keeps going back to the same thing. If you have the data and the insights, you're forced to step up to your blind spots. You can't rationalize your way out of data. And so, you know, to go back to the example you gave, if somebody's really good at converting into evals or from meeting 4 to 5, well, then that's the person you put up in the team meeting to say, what are you doing? How did you convert that? Right? This now becomes a collective learning process.
That's right.
Everybody's learning from the guys that rank at the top, because you've already identified this is a key inflection point that we've got to be better at as a team. We don't convert as well as the other 4 regions. Like, here are the facts. Okay, now let's all jump in and go figure out, what are we going to do to get better? Here's what they're doing. Here's what the best in our team are doing. And then you go back to first point we made. If that's a critical execution item, then you do it every week religiously until the needle starts to move.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, look, from my managers, for those folks, it's always better if you find out the insights as opposed to your boss, right? And as you as a manager become kind of used to using this data, that ability to go in and say, hey, go being proactive, hey, I'm working with my peers on this, and I'm doing this, and I've noticed this, I've got my own development plan, I think is critical. So just a couple questions here, then we're going to wrap up. So John Cox answered, can you use the empowerment of entering clean data as a way to avoid the hated inspection of data?
Well, so I think I have a different spin on it. It's not about entering clean data. It's about having data get automatically input into the system. Now, the system has to only input clean data, right? So getting the clean data into the system without burning the rep is priority number one. Priority number two is, how do you make it easy for reps to do the manual adjustments that they need to make to their deals, to their pipeline, without spending hours every week in Salesforce? And there's now tools that are available. Our machine learning will keep track of everything in a rep's territory and prompt them daily on things that they need to update. You had a meeting, you didn't update next stage, and pull in the field from Salesforce so you can do it right there without having to open up a tab, find the field, like the stuff that reps hate. So there's tools now that make Salesforce much more doable as a territory management system, and we're in that business, that bring a lot of productivity to the rep. But the beauty to the manager is that I don't have to deal with data hygiene issues anymore, right? Which just that's the most frustrating part.
That is, I think, maybe we'll even end there, because I think that's the punchline to this, which is we always talk about the manual data and the data. Look, this is 2021. We're almost halfway through. My friends, why are you making people input data? Like, there's so many tools that, again, and we're talking a lot about InsightSquared, but the amount of manual, what I tell leaders is, like, if you're like, I wonder if this exists, the answer is yes. Like, if you're like, hey, like, I wonder if something will like bring in my emails and my meeting invites, it's like, yes, it does, and so, and I think sometimes whenever people are thinking about ROI or return on investment for, data and some of the tools, it's just, man, we struggle to quantify that time and that efficiency savings. And I think it's a human nature deficiency. We as human nature in general struggle with like savings over gains. But man, just do some quick math. 5%. What if your entire sales floor, your team was 5% less BS? And what does that equal in quota and output? It is going to be pennies compared to what you should be.
Let me give you one other one that we have found as we've deployed our system, is that what we're finding is that reps are also not very good at adding context to the op or account record. They'll add the key ones. But what we're finding, and when we put these systems in, that 70% of the customer context that the team is engaged in the sale process are not in Salesforce, because they don't put them in. SEs don't put anything in, right?
Nah, heck no, man. I'm not doing that, man. I got one point of contact. That's all I had to do. That's all I'm doing.
But yet we're hamstringing marketing from doing any nurturing campaigns based upon titles or personas, because you don't have the data. And to make it worse, we're a good example. The customer success team, I have a licensing system of who all my customers are. Those names are not in Salesforce, done by persona. So to do a nurturing campaign to different levels, different personas, it doesn't exist.
That's right.
So you got to get customer success, and you got to get your sales teams out of the business of having to. So we launched a partnership this week with Ringlead, where we also can identify new context that your team's engaged in and automatically put them into Salesforce and enrich all of that contact with who they are, what the persona is. And so you're now giving a set of data to the marketing function to support your sales team. They're always hamstrung by quality customer data.
Always.
Yep.
Always.
So cool stuff.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Again, everyone wants to do ABM. How are you going to do ABM if you don't have the right contact information?
That's
right. And I think that ability to bring in that data from Ringlead, and they've got a lot of functionality as well too around hygiene, et cetera. So I love that. So look, hopefully all of you had some takeaways. I can't believe it, man. We've been chatting for almost an hour. So I think there's some great stuff in here, man. I really feel like we just put on a a clinic on like what to do with a frontline manager. So we'll definitely put this into some new content and chop it up a little bit. So Todd, I really appreciated it. I really enjoyed the conversation. Again, Becca shared kind of our social media. You can follow Todd. Go check out what the team at InsightSquared is doing. Come check us out at Scaled as well too if you're looking to scale the sales organization. And thank you again, everybody. We will see you next week.